welcome to the show where we share the stories of the many who intersect with our healthcare system but are rarely heard from. My name is Kevin Poe, founder and editor of Kevin MD. Today in the show, we have Casey Shuko. He's a medical student and he wrote the Kevin MD article, "In Crisis, Danger and Opportunity Are Present." Casey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
So we'll get into your article in a little bit, but first off, can you share your story and journey to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in my fourth year of medical school at Michigan State University College of Osteopathic Medicine. Before then, I went to school at Hillsdale College, which is a small liberal arts school in the middle of Michigan, where I got my degree in biochemistry and actually played varsity football for them as a defensive lineman for 5 seasons.
Excellent. For those who aren't familiar with the osteopathic path, can you contrast that with the allopathic path during medical education?
Yeah, absolutely. Allopathic and osteopathic education, there are a lot of similarities in between the two. For example, I just took my Step 2 exam and my Comics 2 exam earlier this past year. And the Step 2 exam is the MD kind of national board exam, whereas the Comics exam is the osteopathic DO board exam. But there's a lot of overlap in between the two. One of the smallest differences is that we learn about osteopathic medicine, where we really focus on, learning about the structure and function of the body. The body can heal itself. The body is in units, and really try to emphasize that through our training.
During these past years, was there anything that surprised you during your medical education journey? Anything that you weren't expecting when you first went in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing that's really surprised me after being done with my Step 2 and Comics 2 exam, I think I've been able to spend honestly a lot more time with my family. And I think that's one thing that really surprised me, especially with my first couple of years of medical school. It's kind of really how much time you have to take away, from your family, from your loved ones, from your friends, and really put to, your education and trying to get, the basics down as you prepare for your courses, as you take neurology, cardiology, biochemistry, stuff that you see on your first round of board exams. So it definitely is a dedication. And I knew it was going to be a dedication going into it, but again, how much time looking back that I really had to kind of separate from my family so I can pursue my studies. It really did surprise me.
All right. So let's transition into your Kevin MD article that you wrote. It's titled, "In Crisis, Danger and Opportunity Are Present." Now, for those who didn't get a chance to read that article, can you just walk my audience through it and share the story of why you decided to write it?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, I was a football player. And I used to be actually a defensive lineman. And for people who don't know much about football and different positions, you have the offensive line and defensive line. There are two sides of the field. We're both really big guys. The offensive line, if anyone knows Tom Brady, he's a really famous quarterback. He's one you say hike, he gets the ball, he throws it, or he hands it off to a guy who's going to run the ball. Offensive line protects Tom Brady. I'm the guy on the opposite side. I'm trying to sack or tackle Tom Brady. So my first couple seasons at Hillsdale where I played, we weren't doing too hot. And going into my last season, that spring, we had some coaching changes. And my position coach the person who became my position coach used to be our team's linebacker coach. And he greeted us with our very first spring football practice / meeting with this message about crisis. And he threw up the Japanese symbol for crisis, which is kiki. And we were thinking to ourselves, he's saying that, oh my gosh, this spring is going to be a crisis. It's going to be chaos. He's going to put us through, some hectic times because we weren't doing too hot and we had to really change the trajectory of our program. But what he was really trying to get after is that if you look at the symbol kiki, it's actually composed of 2 other symbols. One symbol that represents danger or dangerous, and another symbol that actually represents opportunity. His message for us, given this, is that, hey, in crisis, danger and opportunity are present. And that's just, I think, that's in football, but and all around in life, especially, past, 16 or so months of this pandemic, there's been crisis all around. Medical school, medical education, you can feel these moments of crisis because you have all this information, how you organize it, how you prepare. And I think he was just trying to tell us that, hey, there's danger here. I mean, we can be scared, we can try to run away from the danger, or we can embrace the opportunities that are within. We can run towards the crisis and try to take advantage and try to be with each other and see if we can go through this together. I think that was really his biggest message for us. And we ended up having a big turnaround season. My last season there, we ended up having one for Division II football, one of the best defensive lines in the nation, and it really changed the trajectory of that program.
So, what were just some of the specific things the coaching staff did during that particular year that turned that program around?
I think one of it was definitely focusing on, hey, this is going to be tough. We're going to work hard, and we worked hard. I mean, that spring it was competition after competition, and I think competition is really good, getting a chance to really push each other, because it's like the whole phrase "iron sharpens iron,"
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's definitely a lot of that too. I think it's in medicine as well. There's some very tough times, and there's certain times where there is tough love, because there's a lot riding on, the decisions that we make and the lessons that we learn. But at the flip side of that, there was also a lot of things tough to love of, hey, putting your armor on somebody's shoulder. Your teammate has a bad practice, or he's wondering, man, am I going to get to play this year? Or a guy gets an injury and he goes down for the season. I think a lot of it so much is trying to really support each other, build each other up, love each other, and really bring everyone together as a team, and really just try to compete and be there for each other. That it was just a big cultural shift, and I think guys we were trying to do that for the first couple of years, but I think that fifth year, I think we were able to step it up, try to take charge, as seniors and juniors and just everyone throughout the team, and it was such a cool experience to finally get to be part of a winning season and help, I think, turn Hillsdale into a winning program again.
Now, you mentioned in the past 16 months or so during the pandemic, there's been a proverbial crisis in medical education as well. And as medical students, I'm sure that you guys have gone through tremendous amounts of turmoil, disruption, and change. Now, what were some of the opportunities that you noticed during this crisis that you can apply going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest changes that we've seen is that we had to shift from this in-person platform to a more of an online or virtual platform. And students, I think students, staff, faculty, community members, people had to be separated. And I think that was definitely extremely tough early on, and trying to learn all this information early on. But I think one of the greatest things that we can try to take away with this is that, okay, so if we have to go virtual, then let's try and embrace going virtual. Let's still continue to reach out to each other. I think one of the biggest opportunities here is that pick up the phone or get a computer, utilize the Zoom, utilize phone calls, especially not just to like your classmates, to your family and to your loved ones. I think one of those is continuing to reassure that, hey, you are not alone. People might be isolated, but to ensure that even though if we're isolation physically, I'm still with you here. And I think that was probably one of the biggest things, and especially for incoming medical students. My girlfriend, she's actually a year behind me at Michigan State, she did a bunch of tutoring stuff for the first years and second years, and they were able to just tremendously turn what would be a physical in-person tutoring sessions into an online platform that was still able to reach out to incoming students who are stressed, who face worries, who face anxieties. So I think that was one of the biggest things, is this, hey, emphasis on just reaching out, picking up the phone, giving your loved ones a call, and others know that, hey, I'm here with you and we're in this together.
Now, you had your football background to lean upon during these difficult times. Tell me about some of the stories of your other fellow medical students. How do they manage to cope with the situation?
One of the biggest things that talking with a lot of my medical student classmates was, I think, regards to sports, being physically active, trying to exercise. I know that's a great stress reliever, and I think there was a lot of students who really did struggle, especially early on, because I think gyms were shut down. I think that's getting a chance to lift weights or run the treadmill. I think that was very difficult. Now, talking with especially some of my classmates, I think they just took the opportunity then to try to maybe run outside or try to establish a workout routine at home. I know became so many more just kind of at home YouTube videos, an online series of, okay, let's make this transition at home if we need to. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I get to really saw now myself personally, and it was tough. I think who could have prepared for this type of isolation and this type of pandemic? But I know students responded. I know my classmates responded, and I think medical students around the country responded. Now, as we see this last match season, it's the largest that the NRMP has ever had, and I think we're definitely going to see. And I hope to be a part of that again this upcoming year with a new match.
We're talking to Casey Shuko. He is a medical student, and he wrote the Kevin MD article, "In Crisis, danger and opportunity are present. Casey, not everyone has a sports background before they go into medical school. Now, are there any lessons that you could share with, say, the incoming medical school class that you've learned over the years or from your background in sports that you want to share with them to make their journey a little bit easier?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think regardless of if you played varsity sports or if you didn't play varsity sports in college, you just your time in college to really work hard and find a way to be a part of some sort of team thing.
Hmm.
Whether it be it could be drama, it could be music. If you're working multiple jobs, you still have to be part of a team in those jobs. Learn how to effectively time manage, or at least start to develop those time management skills, and do have a sense of toughness. I think of grit, of being able to overcome adversity and overcome challenges. I think kind of reflecting on my time as an athlete, those are probably three of the biggest things that I remember, lesson wise, taking away from my time as a football player was being able to be a part of a team and learn how to work in a team. I think medicine there is so much teamwork in medicine, from the education standpoint to the out there actually practicing standpoint, to within hospitals, clinics, you name it. And again, to be able to manage your time appropriately, I think especially in medical school, because you're going to have, depending on how COVID goes here, transition back to more in-person, labs or sessions. Or if not, there's still virtual labs and sessions. So you still have your virtual labs and sessions, and you still have to study, on top of that. You have to prepare. So when do I have this, this quiz? When I have this test, I have to prepare for the boards at this time. And I think finally, just again, having a sense of toughness, having that sense of grit. I think we have to continue to be there with each other and be able to reach out for each other and try to love each other. I think especially as medical students, as staff, as faculty, and try to do everything we can to support each other and bring each other up. I think that's definitely so important, especially again, still dealing with this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people still are mentally drained, are tired. There's anxiety, there's worry, but I think to continue to say, hey, I'm here with you. We're in this together. Those are probably three of the biggest things, that whether you're an athlete in college or not an athlete in college, try to take away those lessons from whatever you do in your time as college, as you prepare to go into medical school. And likewise, as we go from medical school and prepare to get into residency and so on.
Now, you've mentioned grit several times during this interview. So tell me, what does grit mean to you? And what are some specific ways medical students can demonstrate grit during their education journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think to me, grit is a sense of, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep pushing forward. I'm not going to let challenges overcome me. And I'm not going to let the crisis overcome me. I'm not going to let the dangers overcome me. I'm going to try to embrace the opportunities. Like I said in the article, I'm going to try to, run towards the crisis. I'm going to try to stand up, stick up for myself, to continue to fight forward, so I can pursue my goals, pursue my dreams, pursue a chance to finally get to help out my community in the way I want to, have a family the way I want to be, a husband, a wife, sibling, etc. That I want to. I'm not going to let challenging times, turn me into a ball, and which can be very, very hard. And I think again, this is where I think really needing to rely on others is very, very important. I think especially in medical school, I think there's a lot of medical students who they might have struggled on the MCATs. They might not have the best MCAT scores, or they maybe don't have the best scores going throughout medical school, but they're still getting through medical school, and they're still fighting, and they're still trying. Sometimes we lose, we have serious events, like we lose loved ones. I think a lot of people have lost a loved one, overall since this pandemic has begun. But I think, again, to continuing to push forward, to continue to say, hey, if my dream is to become a doctor, I'm not going to stop. If you do fail a class, take a second, refresh, lean back on your family and friends. And when the opportunity comes back to retake that class, if you get the opportunity, retake it, give it your best shot, and go for it. Continue to reach out to communities, continue to, I think on and on, to try to continue to push forward. So you can get your degrees, you can pass your exams, and so we can become doctors and try to continue to make communities better, this world better, and hopefully continue to make life, as COVID goes on, and hopefully as COVID ends at some point here, better.
And my final question, what's your take-home message that you want to leave with the Kevin MD audience?
Yeah, I think the biggest take-home message that I have, especially for anyone who is trying to get into medical school, who, you might play sports and you think to yourself, I gosh, sports, there's a lot of time here. Can I go through the sciences? Can I get into medical school? Can I do both? I might be scared. I don't know if I can do it. That you can do it. And if you never played sports, if you're scared at any moment, think, God, I can't be a doctor. This is too hard. This is too much. I can't do it. You can do it. I've been scared a number of times. I think the transition for me from leaving football, from graduating, and then deciding, hey, I'm going to go into medicine, it was very scary. I'll be very honest. I was scared because there was a lot of uncertainty there. But I found, I had to open up to my family. I had to rely on my family. I had to rely on loved ones. You had to rely on the support of others because you can never do it alone, and also to never do it alone. So I think, if anything, that you can do it. That these times are tough. They really are. There is a crisis. There is crisis around us still, but you know what? There's opportunities all around, and we have to look for them, and we have to hold on to them. And if we're scared, it's okay. Be there with each other. Continue to push each other through, and let's continue to get into the medical schools, get into the residencies, and go out there and become doctors so we can try to help others and continue to make this world a little bit of a better place.
Casey, thank you so much for sharing your time and insight. And thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Kevin.